60, Governance, Administration and Finance Committee. Today we have apologies from Councillor Darren Taylor. We have all other committee members present, and including Councillor O'Neill on her birthday, and also guest Councillor Gates. We have, so leave of absence, Councillor Taylor. I move that we accept that. All in favour? Thank you. And the confirmation of minutes. There's someone who's happy to move that. Councillor Martin, seconder Councillor Fowler. Any questions about the minutes? All in favour? Thank you. Any conflicts of interest declarations? No. Okay, so if we now have a look at our items that are starred and unstarred, I'd like to unstar 6.6. Is there any other item anyone wishes to alter? Star or unstar? Did you want to have a look at the schedule?
No, it's okay.
Councillor Fowler?
Can I please have 6.3 unstarred just to ask a question?
Yes. Councillor Doran? We'll open the forward schedule as well. So
Sorry, Chair. I think Councillor Doran was mentioning 6.5 rather than the forward planning schedule. Being
okay.
The schedule of committee meetings for 2026.
Okay, let's just unstar it and we'll have a look at it. Okay, so we've got 5.1 starred, and that's it. Goodo. Okay, so I move the starred item. Seconder, Councillor Martin. All in favour? Great. Okay, so we will start with the policy reviews, 6.1. Does anyone want a report presentation? Yeah. Yes, we'll go through the presentation.
Good afternoon, through the chair. Thank you for enabling us the opportunity to present to you the policy reviews for this GAF meeting on the 7th of October. There are 3 policies presented to GAF today to consider for retirement. They are the residential tree scheme policy, the non-current assets accounting policy, and the community engagement policy, which we're bringing back to you from last month and at the request of the last council meeting. There's a range of reasons that we're proposing these policies for retirement, and I'll just give a quick run through on each of the 3 policies and the reasons for that. The residential tree scheme policy, it was originally adopted back in 1998. I think that's around about 27 years ago. It's had a couple of reviews since that time, but essentially this policy was established to drive a program or a service that the city delivers to provide free trees to its constituents across all of the divisions. There was a more significant review that occurred in 2020, which was to ensure that fair and equitable distribution of free trees across all of the divisions, and to leverage the other programs across council, such as our annual citizenship ceremonies, for example, as a mechanism to actually disperse those trees across the community. It's an annual program. It's something that's funded through our annual budget processes each year. It runs primarily from January to June in each year, and it currently provides, and we currently budget for 3 trees per household for residents, up to 10 trees per complex for body corporates. There is, just with the 3 trees per household, there's obviously a maximum per event or per division that you give out each time you hold those events, and up to 50 trees per school. The primary reason that we've recommended this policy is retired is that it's actually more of a service that you're providing to the community and not so much a policy position. So you're funding this through the annual budget process as opposed to it actually being a discrete policy in accordance with our framework. The next one is a non-current asset accounting policy. Again, this one's been around for quite a little while, and it's been through a couple of different versions throughout time. One of the more significant changes was to be able to consolidate a range of policies that existed that talked to the disposal of non-current assets from an accounting perspective. So this one is being recommended to retire based on the rule that we have around not duplicating legislation and Australian standards. It's important to note that even though we're recommending this policy is retired, it won't be removed as an operational guideline within the organisation. The document will still sit within the policy document framework. It's just that it's being retired as a policy because it's a more procedural guideline that everyone across the city needs to comply with. And then it becomes about actually training people from our finance through to our asset management teams to make sure everyone's applying those rules and Australian standards in the same way. The last policy that we're recommending for retirement, this one came to you last month through GAF. The GAF recommendation was accepted. However, at the ordinary council meeting or the full council meeting of the month, there was a recommendation to bring it back for further consideration at this meeting. We're still proposing that the policy be retired. The community engagement framework was adopted by council at the last meeting. We've gone through and provided some more background in the report in terms of some of the questions that the councillors raised in understanding the difference between the community engagement framework and the engagement that you do with your constituents on the ground as part of your role as a councillor, and also just in terms of highlighting the roles and responsibilities of councillors in the legislative framework that we already have. And on those, for those reasons, we felt that there was no further need to amend the community engagement framework that was presented last month. The officers are definitely considering the way that we communicate better on the website about how these work together and the role of community engagement. But the recommendation to you today is that it still be retired.
Any questions?
Thank you, Chair. I just have one about community engagement in general. Is it now the case that that whole branch is in one location and not now with people dispersed right throughout the various areas of council?
Through the Chair, Councillor Gates, that's correct. The community engagement and stakeholder engagement areas of the business have all been centralised into a centre of excellence, which, as until last week, sat in Service Gold Coast, but is now part of our Planning, Regulation and Service Gold Coast Department.
Okay, thank you.
So is that where it's...
Sorry.
Is that where it's...
Through the Chair, can I clarify?
Yeah.
Sorry. It's actually now moved into the Office of the CEO. Sorry, that's my mistake.
Mr. CEO,
Apologies.
would you like to comment on it? Thank you.
Just a very quick clarification that that move hasn't occurred yet, and it's subject to a paper that's in this committee. So that's the proposal, but it's subject to the paper on the restructure, which is consistent with what council are aware of, but it doesn't take place until such time as we've we've dealt with that matter. But to answer your question in general terms, yes, we've brought all of those together, and there is opportunity, as we have discussed, Councillor Gates, for an improvement in both the delivery mechanism and the efficiency in that area. Thanks, Chair. I might stay. That's all right.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. And through to you, Ms Green, just in relation to our residential tree scheme policy, whilst I acknowledge it is more of a service, as you've kind of articulated, I just want to know, is there some sort of direction or platform for which this information would still be very much visible for any of the community that would want to participate? So schools, for instance, is this going to go onto our Naturally GC website, our One City website kind of platform, or where will they be able to find this, I guess, if we were to retire it today? Because my concern with it is that if we retire it, it will be lost in a way, and I don't want to see that happen, because I think it's actually a really good offering that the city provides, but I just want to make sure that it is actually somewhere for people to know this, rather than it just being something that does exist that no one really can find where it actually does exist. So can you give me some reassurance or clarity as to where this may exist in the future?
Through the Chair. Absolutely, Councillor Wilkinson. It is public now, and from my observations in reviewing our website, a lot of the information on our website is actually better and more community friendly than a lot of the information in the current policies.
I was going to ask the same question. So just so that I understand, the engagement framework as we've seen it, that will be a visible document. That is a visible document. The framework is visible. Yeah, great. Yeah.
So through the Chair, So this is a governance change, not a function change. There is no desire whatsoever to remove either of the programs, but it's just we don't need the policy, is the point. So I think I was answering the tree one.
Yeah, I think we're aware of that. Yeah. It was just, is the engagement, so right now people can click on a policy. Will they be able to click on the engagement framework?
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Thanks, Chair. Just when it comes to budget time, obviously we've talked about that service level delivery is outlined in the budget. If there's any future changes to the actual deliverables, can that appropriately be flagged in the budget build?
Yes.
Through the Chair, yes, and we've had those initial conversations with Finance.
Thank you, Chair. At full council, I had a few questions about the community engagement policy. Since full council, I've had a document go through the community engagement team for sign off through corporate comms. So in relation to this document, and I felt that was quite heavy-handed in its oversight of my wording for my constituents. I'm not going to go into details, but in terms of the intent behind the policy and also bringing it into the CEO's office, I assume that's in order to streamline and to add value, not to stop or prevent anything going out.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. A couple of points. So it's not in the office of the CEO yet. So, but once it gets to the office of the CEO and more broadly, this is about streamlining the process and making it easier. I was at home watching the debate last month, and I guess it's a good opportunity, if I may, through you, Chair, to say that no policy that is passed in this room can override a councillor's obligations and responsibilities under the Local Government Act, and so that was never the intent of this policy. The policy and now the framework. So the intent is to make things easier for councillors, not to make it harder. And I'm more than happy to take on that feedback as it transitions into the office of the CEO.
I have a proposed change recommendation on that, which I think will address that. Any other questions?
Yeah, Chair, just one question on the community engagement framework, which I was comfortable with around the options around officers in terms of communicating that to the community. But I think I raised a question around, okay, in practice, how do officers use that and assess that? And I think the response was there is an internal document. So I'm just seeking for that to be circulated around how and when, which level of engagement is chosen.
happy to take that on. Yes, thank you.
Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, I just had a question around the non-current asset accounting policy, and just to ask if the Audit and Risk Committee independent directors have advised that they would be supportive of retiring that policy as well.
Through the chair, I can confirm that we have had a conversation with the ARC chair, who has confirmed that they're comfortable with the retirement of this policy on the basis that we retain the procedures. It isn't normal for policies such as this to go through the ARC committee, but the ARC chair was comfortable in this instance.
Okay, I have a proposed change recommendation. So just with that council retires the following policies as a 1, and then as a 2, so 1 ABC, and then 2. The wording on page 25 is really good in terms of explaining that distinction between councillors and council officers with engaging in the policy. So my recommendation is we just include that wording on the public side of the framework. So it's just really clear, what does councillors do? So I think the wording's going to come up. So that's 1. And 2, that the following wording be included in the publicly accessible community engagement framework document.
Mm-hmm.
The public-facing community engagement framework document.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor Curtis.
Thanks, Chair. So we've already adopted the engagement framework. So doing an amendment within this. Okay.
And we identified that at full council, that if we wanted to just make a change to this based on that, I think that's just the cleanest way. It makes it clear to us, it makes it clear to everybody that, hey, councillors will still keep doing what they want within reason, and these are kind of the rules. Do I have a second? Oh, I'll give everybody a chance to digest it. So I'll read it out for the sake of it. So the wording that, and it is to address the point that Councillor Doran noted, that whilst the framework has been developed to ensure that councillors are core enablers and contributors to the outcomes within the framework, it does not and should not prevent or in any way inhibit councillors from fulfilling their obligations under the Act to engage with the community. Specifically, it doesn't prevent councillors from individually conducting their own engagement with residents within the local government area. Councillor Doran?
So, Chair, just seeing it's probably going to be changed right as I'm speaking, and it is, so ignore my...
Councillor Curtis?
I just think the inclusion... Chair, the inclusion is duplication of the Act, which is sort of what we're seeking to take from the policy. I'm just wondering if it really does value add, or it's just adding a statement that it exists in perpetuity anyway.
Well, the reason why I'm adding it is I don't think it's a duplication of the Act. It states the relationship between the framework, councillors and the Act. So it's just making it clear. So if that question's asked, well, how come you're doing this? It's just a very clean and simple thing to comment on. This is the language that's been drafted by officers when they're looking at how councillors engage with the framework. So for and someone who's clicking on, oh, how does the city engage? It just gives a bit, just makes it easier for people to understand rather than having to go, oh, will there be an Act? Or they don't know that there's an Act even, right? This states there's an Act. Oh, councillors have to do things differently. So do I have a seconder for that? Yes, Councillor Martin.
Thanks, Chair. I know you said officers have helped with wording, but my question is, are officers comfortable with the wording as it is built in?
Well, councillor, through you, Chair. It's what officers wrote in the report. So it is, and I think it's probably a slightly better expressed version than what I was trying to say a moment ago. I don't disagree that it's in effect a replication of what's in the Act. It has no material impact going in the framework other than for the benefits that the council has just mentioned. So it could be in the framework, it could be on the blurb. Before you click on it, it'll have no material impact.
Okay. Any other comments or queries about this item? Okay, so I'm moving. Councillor Martin is seconding. Anyone wish to speak for or against? No? Okay. Well, again, I thank Ms Green for her great policy work and Paul for the consistent work that we're doing to refine our policies. We did do a lot of work on the community engagement framework. We acknowledged the feedback from the community. We noted that at the last council meeting, and I think this just will make it crystal clear to those community members and to everyone what the distinction is between councillors and officers when engaging this way. So all in favour? Great, thank you. Okay, the next item is the annual report. Were there any questions on that? Councillor Curtis?
Thanks, Chair. And I contacted you last night just about a slight amendment to the blurb that's associated in the annual plan, which was an amended draft of one that I provided and just had some wording that I wasn't comfortable with. So it's just been amended from essentially lifelong to long-term resident, because I wasn't a lifelong.
Yes. Yes. So can I just confirm that I know that there's been engagement with Councillor Curtis that it now, when it says attachment 1, it's the one she's referring to? Yeah. Okay. So it's a minor change. It's just as an officer in the Defence Force, even though Shelley was a long-term resident, she's not, because she's all over the place. So she just wanted to make that really crystal clear. Is that reasonable? Yes. Councillor Gates?
I'm sorry to be picky, but on page 110, which outlines the notes about us, could they move the apostrophe? My name's not Donna Gate. Can you just put the apostrophe after the S, please?
Wouldn't be an annual report without. Thank you. Will you get that one?
Yeah. Any others? Councillor Martin.
Thanks, Chair. I wasn't going to mention it, but just it's the same. It's not an apostrophe, but it is on this page just for clarity. I've already spoken with officers. It just noted my office was in Burleigh Heads, but it is in Palm Beach. So I've also raised that through to officers.
This is a part of the report that we all care about the most. I've already given my amendments on this page.
There's 30 pages of financials.
The wording came from, actually, I changed mine after Councillor Tozer's comment at the last council meeting. I thought, oh, that's good language. I'll use that. Yeah. Advocate for, what was it? Transparency and good governance. Thank you. Here we go. Councillor Fowler.
I just had a question just for those listeners who are watching at home. When the community would be able to have access to the adopted annual report on the city's website, and how would that be promoted?
Certainly, through the Chair. Under the legislation, we have 2 weeks to publish the annual report once it's adopted by Council. And we do have a probably slightly reduced marketing campaign attached to the annual report this year. So there'll be a couple of social media posts. We'd love to share them with councillors so that you can also share them on your pages. And I understand that there'll be some material put together if you wish to choose to put it in your newsletters. There is a 2-page highlights brochure or PDF document that's also been prepared that will be launched once we publish it on the website. So whilst the legislation requires within 2 weeks, we are prepped and ready to go as soon as Council adopts the annual report. So I'd like to think we'll get it up that week. Actually, that meeting's on Friday, so early the next week. So Any further amendments that you also have in relation to your profiles, etc., please let us know before, I think it's Friday the 17th is the council meeting.
I've got a question, page 134, and this may not be an issue. It may just be an issue on the hard copy. But on the hard copy, there's no words there. Is that just an error of printing? Can someone tell me if they got it on screen, whether you actually see the words on page 134?
Yes, there are.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Great. Okay.
Sorry, we can provide that offline just for good governance so everyone can see what the actual words are, because if everyone's got the same as I've got in my pack, which is between now and the main meeting, if it's okay,
Okay, great.
Chair, we'll
Yeah,
send
thank
out a
you.
PDF
If it's in the soft copy, I just forgot to look at it on.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you. Good-o. Any other questions or comments about the annual report? Okay, so to the recommendation, I will move that Council resolves to adopt. Seconder, Councillor O'Neill. I thank officers for their work on preparing this document, and I think it's a very clear and transparent document for the community. I think the use of our outcomes versus our measures makes it really clear where we are, and with the reds, we're owning that and where we're falling short. That's the importance of an annual report document, that people can see all elements of it. So thank you for your work. I will move that. Seconder. I didn't get I did. Sorry, Councillor O'Neill. Anyone else wish to speak to it? No? All in favour? Thank you. Great. Done. Now, Councillor, about the monthly financial report.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Firstly, I just wanted to make a comment to say thank you to the team. I'm loving the new financial report that we've all been given for the first time this month. So to the CFO and the team, I think it's been a really great step in the right direction, a lot of clarity, a lot of new information that I think makes things really clear. And I know that's the first step, and we've got a lot more improvements to come. So I do thank you for the efforts there. My main question was just around how significant the forecast El Nino-driven rainfall could be in terms of reducing the revenue from the water charges. I know that was clearly an issue this year, and where there was note made of it in the financial report. So are we actually looking at what that might look like? And if we do think that might be deemed to be an issue, have we got mitigation strategies in place to perhaps reforecast some of that?
Through the Chair. So at the moment it's currently tracking over. We are going through the process at the moment of doing some forecasting just to identify what those weather patterns are looking like and what the effectful revenue will be. There will be an offsetting impact as well on the bulk water purchase, so it is just the retail markup for which we'll be short by. We'll have to have a look at the budget holistically to see if there is any potential shortfall for where it will be made up. So it's yet to come at this point.
That was my main question, just to pull out. I can see all the hard work that's being done. So looking forward to Friday's budget workshop.
Very good. Yeah, I think that's a compelling concern, but we can't measure the weather. But since we had that conversation on the impact of that, I always feel like I'm helping the City of Gold Coast whenever I'm watering my garden. So I'm like, water away. Okay. Yes, Councillor Martin. Yes, question?
Thanks, Chair. Question on other revenue. I noticed there was a change, but it's largely around reclassification, something going into fees and charges, and I'm just wondering if you could give a bit more context around what's driven the reclassification and rationale for that.
Through you, Chair. So the other revenue is predominantly our sales out at venues, and then the fees and charges is mainly in relation to the rental or the lease incomes. So we've had a slight classification between the actual budget results and the actual results, what we need to do over the coming months is have a real close look at where they've been budgeted and where they're landing in the actual results and get that alignment. So for this month, it's slightly out of alignment, so we need to do some further work around that. Phasing is also another impact that will make the budget versus actuals look a little bit off. And as I've mentioned in the report, we're going through refinements of our phasing of our budget and our actuals. So I'm hoping within the next 3 months, the results will look a lot better in relation to being tied back to the budget and can be better explained.
Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering if the CFO could provide a bit of detail around the increase in OPEX. I think it's 46 million that's listed in there, and whether that's a once-off and how that's going to be tracked moving forward, and just some general commentary around that, please.
Through you, Chair. So, Councillor Doran, are you referring to the net result on the page 273, tracking over?
Yes, and it's just referenced in earlier commentary within the report that there was a $46 million over on OPEX.
Through you, Chair. So that's related to several factors. So you'll see on page 278 is the further breakdown of the expenses and the total 46 million that's tracking overspend against the actual budget. The main differences that you'll see here are predominantly related to the capitalised expenses that sit within the line item there as a bracket figure. For the first 2 months of this financial year, this is based on an accrual or an estimate and is not actually based on our actual capital expenditure. Now that the books are closed and we can do what's called settlements within the system, we'll have a better reflected result there.
Just to follow up, so the headline number I get, and when you go into 278 and 279, it is quite broad in what that money was for, OPEX and expenses. I'm wondering, is there any more detail around any specific, like is that consultants, is that, it's quite a big number. I'm just trying to get some details to what that 46, without getting every dollar spent, but just in general.
Through you, Chair, I'll have to take that question on notice and give you back further detail.
Thanks.
Yeah, just through the Chair. There's
Could you share that with all committee members? Yep. Thanks.
Are you happy, Chair, that we just distribute that via email?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Pardon?
I just wondered, could it be distributed to all councillors?
Oh, to all councillors. Okay, great. Thank you. Councillor Martin?
Yeah, Chair. I was just on that point. I think it's just the forecast of a credit for the capitalised expenses didn't land as it. So was there either a bring forward of expenses or an overspend, or is it just that the capitalisation didn't hit where we thought we would?
Through the Chair, so partially correct. We have phasing which we put into our budget, which is based on estimates where we think actual results are going to land. With the capital program, it's very difficult to make that estimation and determination. That's why we have budget reviews. So with the September budget review coming up, we'll have a better indication of where this expenditure is falling and be able to also rephase the budget so we've got better alignment against the actuals. Yes, the capitalised expenses is one of the major numbers there that you can see a fluctuation in. And yes, once again, phasing and how we've initially put the budget in at the start of the year.
Just through the Chair, I'd just like to quickly add, we don't have any concerns at this stage around our financial position. We're tracking as expected because it is the end of the year and we're yet to do the finalisation of the accounts, which we've now finalised. We'll start to see those costs flow through correctly.
All good? Anyone up for moving it? Councillor Wilkinson. Seconder, Councillor Fowler. Wish to speak to it, Councillor Wilkinson?
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep it brief, and I'll echo Councillor Fowler's commentary before. I think that the way you've presented this is much clearer. I think that there's a lot of work that the team is doing behind the scenes to be doing what we've requested, I think, as councillors at the end of the day, as far as presenting the information more timely and understanding the accrual accountancy principles and all those other things. So congratulations to the team on that. But happy to move this item, and I look forward to, obviously, the September budget review where we can see a little bit further into the background on certain details, and welcome this moving forward as we keep moving it in that direction. So cheers.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak or happy to vote? All in favour? Great, thank you. Moving on to the Audit Risk Committee meeting, 6.4. I just wanted to highlight a couple of matters in there which I thought were useful for the committee to recognise. But before that, I'll just check if there are any questions. No, so I'll just note there's a couple of matters. First of all, on page 295, and I'm happy to move this item. If there's a seconder, Councillor Fowler. There were questions that we had following the update on the forecasting versus actual end-of-year position. So the ARC questioned management as to the forecasted and actual end-of-year position to ensure management were taking appropriate actions. I just wanted to make it clear, as is highlighted in this report, that they're taking it very seriously, and that management will be updating the ARC at a future meeting on the Financial Excellence Program, which is aimed at improving internal sustainability and financial management. And then the other element that I thought was particularly of note was this committee moved a recommendation that the controlled entities policy, which had come to this committee with an officer recommendation for it to be retired, that we just get the ARC's thoughts on it. They were very strongly of the opinion it shouldn't be retired. And you can see on page 300 in Action 444 that they are seeking further information. Actually, no, that was the last one. But effectively, that they are requesting more information. They're going to do a lot more work on it, looking at that and looking at the agreements, the funding agreements, to make sure that we've got a really useful and protective controlled entity policy. And then they will make those recommendations back to this committee. So that was really all. I'm happy to move it. I don't need to speak to it. Are there any questions, comments, or anyone wish to speak to it? Councillor Gates.
Sorry, I have a question about the controlled entities as it relates to a confidential item a little further on. I just didn't know whether I could ask it in open session, or maybe I should just wait until the next. I'll wait until the closed session item.
Okay.
That's my question there.
Okay, so noting the contents of this report, all in favour? Great, excellent, thank you. Okay, 6.5. Yes. Councillor Doran.
Just that there was last round of committee meetings, or last year's calendar had 4 special budget committees. This one has gone down to 3, and I just wanted to seek an understanding as to why that was the case, because I remember them being pretty full at 4.
Thank you for the question through the chair. So we did have a look at the schedule, because we're doing the quite intensive budget workshops. So we're going to do quite a number of those. At this point, we've got 2 scheduled, but we'll probably do another 2 in the new year. and one of those meetings we felt last year wasn't of great value with all the heavy content in the last 2 meetings, so we decided it would probably be best to rationalise the number.
Thank you. So some of the content will be covered off over the course of the workshops that we do, so that's probably why it's not needed. Is that? So I guess the question then is, once we do the work in the workshops, will it be presented to us, the budget proposal, in the same way it was presented, just to use one example of last year, in terms of here's the draft budget and the process we do, obviously it's in closed session, because I suppose I'm just trying to get some comfort that we'll have enough time to put adequate feedback into that document.
Through the chair, we're hoping that by doing those intense workshops, like the one we have this week, for example, it's the whole day, and investing that time, that we will get agreement about what we'll be presenting in the special budget committee process, so therefore reducing the need for as many meetings. So yes, you will be presented with the same material, but I think a lot of the debate and conversation that's required around that's happened in SBC will be workshopped through so that we can have a more robust conversation and outcome.
Councillor Gates.
Just considering Councillor Doran's question there, and because we don't really know how the budget workshops will inform the budget, should we put another tentative one in for a couple of weeks before adoption that can be used or not used if as required?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
We can.
Okay, people
Yes.
want to pick a date, or should we just ask that a date is found?
Oh, well, maybe the director might like to find a date that's suitable before full council.
Okay.
And just pop a tentative in.
No problem.
But it would need to be a couple of weeks before adoption so that there's time
Yes,
for the
we
officers
can do that.
to. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other comments about our work calendar for next year? Do we want to note that? Where's the recommendation? We don't need to change that, do we? You'll just add the third one, we'll make that right for the next meeting. Okay, great. Mover for that? Councillor Wilkinson, seconder Councillor Fowler. Councillor Wilkinson?
No, I'm fine with it. Yeah.
Okay. All in favour? Great. Thank you. Whizzing through it. I'm trying to do my best for Councillor O'Neill. I'm sure she has other places to be right now. So, but I have quickly opened Petition 6.6 just to briefly speak to it. To state that the decision doesn't get made today on whether we're going to be accepting online petitions or whether we think that makes sense. Am I moving it? I am happy to move it. Seconder, Councillor Fowler.
Sorry, Chair. It was more if you would consider a number 5, that's all.
Oh, do you want to move it?
Sorry?
Do you want to move it? Why don't you move it?
Move it.
You move it.
Okay. I would like to do a change recommendation then, just to add a 5, that a further report, I can give the words, but I'll just read it out, that a further report be brought back to Council outlining the specific changes required to Local Law Number 1, meetings 2008 and subordinate Local Law Number 11 meetings to enable online petitions, including indicative timeframes, noting that amendments would take approximately 12 to 18 months to come into effect. And it's not that I support online petitions or that I don't. I'm probably just wanting
Have you provided that wording?
No, I've just,
Okay.
I'm on the fly right now. I was
Great.
provide it.
Yes, that would be helpful. I'm not sure you caught every one of those words. Be brought back to council. Okay, Councillor Martin.
I heard the words and I'm happy to second them.
Okay, so Councillor Fowler, once we got the words up and we've got a seconder, which is effectively stating the same thing, we're requesting that the report be brought back to council outlining that. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. While that's just being typed up, I was just wondering if I could get some clarity, given that it was only April this year that we resolved, obviously, to leave our local law, the one unchanged. What is the general time frame for when we would then seek to revisit this? I know the implementation period is...
Yeah.
The implementation period is obviously 1 to 2 year kind of period, but when are we going to look at this again?
Well, I think there's been timing provided on this recommendation, which is 12 to 18 months. That's noting that the amendments would take 12 to 18 months to come into effect. The adoption of local law, that 1.1 that we didn't really consider this comment, so we can always consider new matters. I don't think that there's a concern about it coming back and reviewing this specifically. Councillor Hamill.
Chair, just a question. What Councillor Fowler's requesting in number 5, do we need a report to bring that back to information? That's fairly general information that can probably just be provided as a memo instead of another report.
I'm wondering whether, I think the purpose of it is that it's more about wanting it to come to council for a vote on whether it actually happens or not. I'm wondering whether the wording is more about a recommendation, because the outlining of the specific changes required, I think that is more memo material. But if it's about a recommendation, identifying why and why not, because we haven't got that here yet. So the petition hasn't really been addressed as yet. It's just like, we'll address it some point in the future. So would you consider that, Councillor Fowler? Instead of what it would take to outline it, I think the first thing that council needs to consider is what is the recommendation on accepting this proposal, and do we want to proceed with that?
Thank you, Chair. From my point of view, it's more that I don't have the information really to make that decision and that determination. So I guess for me, it was about asking for a report back to council that spelt out exactly what changes would be required to enable online petitions and the process and timeframes involved, noting it would likely take 12 to 18 months. That is not committing us to introducing an online petition system. It was more demonstrated that we've listened to residents and that we're doing the groundwork, so the idea could be considered when the laws are next reviewed. If people care enough to make an online petition, I think it's just worth us to look at whether us as council would like to go down that pathway or not. And I didn't think I had the information to make that decision.
Okay. Councillor Martin.
Thanks, Chair. I was just going to add, to Councillor Hamill's point about a report, I was supporting this on the basis of report because I'm hoping to see out of this all the information that Councillor Fowler talked about, but essentially the pros and cons of this, because there are both.
My concern is that doesn't actually say that right now. So that is really just talking about the mechanics of it. It doesn't say the risks or benefits of it. And I think maybe that a further recommendation be brought back to council, including this, that includes the specific changes required. We haven't got a recommendation yet, whether it makes sense or not.
I wonder if the CEO could.
Yeah, sure.
So we have no resolution to review this local law. We have a number of local laws. I would require, or the city administration would require, a resolution to review the local law. At this stage, generally speaking, this one gets reviewed at the start of every term as a general rule because it's about meetings. We have no plans whatsoever to review this local law because we don't have a resolution telling us to. And so I think that helps, Chair.
So if that's the case, I think the language needs to be, if I'm understanding your intent, is that that a report be brought back with review, like Does that need to be in that? Because this is just memo, right? This is just saying, okay, if you did it, these are the steps.
So if that went through as voted, we'd provide either a report or I tend to agree with the Deputy Mayor, a memo which says this is what's needed to change this, and it'd be 18 months, it'd be all the requirements under the Act. It would not be a recommendation on whether we should review the Act, because I don't have the law, I should say, because I don't have a council resolution for my staff to do it. I mean, we get written to a lot about, can you change this local law, can you change? Okay. And our position is always from the city administration, that's a matter for the elected wing to decide, and then we would change it.
I suggest that we have a very short cup of tea break. Councillor Fowler, if you'd like to meet with the CEO, just make sure that the wording is done so that your intent is met. Is that okay?
Yep.
Thanks. Okay, so we're on item 6.6. We have a change recommendation on the screen, moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Martin. Okay. We have a question from Councillor Curtis.
Thank you, Chair, and my apologies. I just need to get to this point of the decision making. I need to better understand why there's a need to change the local law, because I'm just trying to grapple with it. It doesn't explicitly allow for the submission of online petitions. I understand that, but it doesn't explicitly not allow for. And my reading of the wording as it's contained in the local law sort of doesn't prohibit it being online. So I'm really just trying to grapple with the need for it to be explicit.
Yep, I'll try my best. So through you, Chair. So the position of the City Administration is that given that it is not specifically allowed within the local law, then if we were to commence taking e-petitions, then there could be an argument made that they're not properly made. And so for full belts and braces to ensure that we're meeting the requirements of the local law, consistent with what other local governments have done in Queensland, you would amend the local law to allow it to happen.
Councillor Martin.
I'd just add that I think those words are really important around outlining the merits of council accepting online petitions. So amending the local law is the secondary process. The primary process is the merits of it, and that's what we're seeking to understand and have a recommendation. So
yep.
I'm supportive of that.
Agreed. Good. Councillor Fowler, do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you, Chair. I think I've already spoken to it, but it's just to echo what Councillor Martin just said. My real reason behind this is just to understand the merit behind it and to see if it's something that we want to look at doing. We clearly get asked, well, personally, I get asked by my residents often, do we accept online petitions to make that easier for them? I'm aware that that it's very complicated. If we did want to do this change, and that changes would be required to the local law number 1 meetings 2008 and the subordinate local law number 1 meetings 2008. So it is a big decision. But before we even get there, I'd just like to look at what would it take for council to consider online petitions? How would that be function? How much would it cost? Maybe we don't want to do it. Maybe we do want to do it. So it's not signing us up to it today. It's simply getting a report so we can look at the merits of it.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? No? All in favour? Great. Done. Rightio. So we're on to 7.1, which is a closed item regarding sale of land for overdue rates and charges. Are there any questions or anything that requires anyone to go into closed to discuss this matter? Do I have a mover for the item? Councillor Curtis, seconder Councillor Wilkinson. No questions regarding it? Okay. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Curtis? All in favour? Great. Thank you. Okay, 7.2, organisational structure. First, starting with questions. Recognising this is a closed document, so if you just know if you're asking questions that we need to go into closed for. Councillor Gates?
Well, I do have some questions, and I do believe it probably needs to be.
We should go into closed. Okay, great. So we move that we go into closed session pursuant to section 254J3 for consideration of the following item because it's industrial matters affecting employees. I'll move that. Seconder, Councillor Wilkinson. All in favour? Thank you. In front of us is 7.2. I'm happy to move this item. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilkinson. So the information in this report was requested at the last council meeting, and I thank officers for providing that clarity. It's very helpful for us to understand, and my suggestion, well, no, I'm not going to go there, but it's been useful to identify some more information. I can't speak more about it than that, given that it is confidential. Anyone else wish to speak? All in favour? Thank you. Okay. The next item is 7.3. Are there any questions on this item that require it to go into closed? Councillor Gates? Thank you. Can't ask, and if the answer needs to be enclosed, it does.
Oh, well, okay, I'm pretty sure this can be asked in open if no one else has a need to go into close. But on page 324, it mentions, this is in relation to contracts awarded, it mentions locally owned or having a local presence. I'm not sure that I mean, a lot of companies have a local presence on the Gold Coast, but they're not local companies. And so I wondered why that's been introduced as a measure.
Through you, Chair. So this has been a vexed issue through my whole career. So you could have a international company that has 300 staff here and has a big presence. Should they be treated the same as a company that was founded on the Gold Coast and started on the Gold Coast that has 6 or 7 staff, or who were founded on the Gold Coast, has 1 staff member here and has 30 up the road in Brisbane? It's always difficult, Councillor, to get that balance right. And I guess at the end of the day, where the city has landed is that it makes more sense to have if you're contributing to the Gold Coast economy and you've got staff on the ground here, then you should be considered local, because there are many Gold Coast companies that have a post office box here but have all their staff in Sydney, for example. There's a lot in the design and creative world, for example. So it's hard to get that right, but the intent is to have a company that's delivering real value to the Gold Coast economy.
Okay, thank you for that, because my reading of it, I mean, I always felt that if they had a Gold Coast office, they were a local Gold Coast company. Yep. But there's many companies who have a presence here, but they don't actually have staff on the ground. So that's the clarity that I wanted, if you don't mind. So they must, to be called a local company, they must have an office here on the Gold Coast.
I'm just waving at the Chief Procurement Officer to make sure what I'm about to say is right, Chair, if that's okay with you. But generally speaking, the way you've described that is correct. Okay. You're nodding, Michael? Yes, let's go with that then, if you're okay with that.
Any other question there, Councillor Gates?
The only other question on this report I had was on page 330, it talks of a lot of practical examples, and it talks of council having sought to end contracts, and it talks of council electing to terminate, and I don't believe it was council, I believe it was the city administration. And so I wondered if there's been some I don't believe any of those organisational matters came before the council.
No,
I know it sounds like it's splitting hairs, but they were not council decisions, and so I just felt it should have been worded differently within the body of the report.
I would concur, and nor would it be appropriate for council to make those kind of decisions for anyone other than myself.
So it's quite extensive through this report that council made decisions they didn't.
I think we're in open, Chair, and it's some good advice for city officers in terms of the way that we draft papers.
I actually have problems with this report, and I think it needs to come back again. So I've got a change recommendation with it because it isn't actually answering the questions of the resolution either. But before I get to that, I might see if there are any other questions. Okay, so if you refer to page 324 and 3 part C, the request in the resolution was that a report be brought back addressing the risks of the city using deeds of release. The report that we've been presented only presents the risks to the city of not using deeds of release. And this item was specifically identified by the Audit Office and they have a concern about it. So the request was, well, why do they have a concern about deeds of release in local government? And we wanted to understand what those risks were. But there hasn't been any explanation of that. So I think it's just easier if we get a report that comes back that does actually state what those risks are. Clearly, the city thinks, yeah, those are risks, and we think that they're outweighed by the risks of not doing it. I get that, but it's just the resolution hasn't actually provided us the information requested. So my change recommendation would be sorry, where is it? Part 6. So 6 change to that a further report addressing the deeds of release resolution request. I can give you the number. Be brought back to this committee. It's just something for us to understand the risks. The Audit Office have said, hey, you should look at this. We think this is a dangerous way for local governments to go. We just need to understand why they're saying that. Councillor Hamill?
Chair, noting the other items that were in the original recommendation, so A and B, which you raised at full council in regards to the deficiencies identified in the Queensland Audit Office interim report. Obviously, there's a... Okay, so I was looking to ask you the question because you raised it at council and put the detail around it. If the detail you were seeking was there, or if you...
it is certainly a lot more than this one is, but I still don't. Yeah, I don't even know what it's for. What was the contract for?
Obviously, I can't answer that in open, Chair.
Oh, we're in open. Okay, sorry.
So that's what I was
sorry, I totally forgot we were in open then.
Is there a chance, in the hope that we don't necessarily have to have a report back on that as well, could we go to closed and see what detail you're still seeking in the hope we might get this one resolved today instead of it coming back for a third time?
Yeah. I think given the report's coming back, it probably doesn't hurt. So A, I have issues with still. B, I have issues with still because it didn't provide the specifics of it. So all of 3, I feel like that needs to come back.
Sorry, Chair, unless there's information that can be provided in close and maybe able to answer the last of your questions.
Yeah, okay. I don't think so, though. It's too technical and it's too much.
Well,
like, it's just...
Is there an opportunity then by going into close and you asking the questions, then the officers will know exactly what detail you're seeking?
Yeah, and I can also do that if there's any lack of understanding of that. I don't need to do that. I could probably be better drafted in an email.
So you do what you want to do, but I'm wondering, but that it may help for some others to understand where you're coming from. It might help tease out that...
Let's do that. So let's move into close so we can stop talking around the matter. So move that we go into close. Seconder, Councillor Martin, all in favour? Great, thank you. Thank you. So this is item 7.3. We have the recommendation on the screen. There was additional information requested. The majority of that has been provided, and we're assured that councillors will receive any further information required via email prior to the next council meeting. I thank officers for providing that clarity and helping us making our decisions and considering the risks for the city. Anyone wish to speak? All in favour? Great, thank you. Oh, my apologies. I will move it. Seconder, Councillor Wilkinson. All in favour? Thank you. Okay. Where are we at? Sorry, GBI. I've got one GBI. So I was going to put this up in the planning meeting, but it can work here as well. So, pardon? Yeah. So the general business item is that Council consider including legality of content as a factor in the advertising device approval process, that this matter and its potential impact on illegal vaping signage be considered in the City Standards Local Law Review Project. Question, Councillor Fowler?
If you don't mind, Chair, I just have a question on process, because I'm getting confused with general business items, because I think the advice we got from Chamber Support is they had to be on a template and provided to committee ahead of a committee meeting. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I stand to be corrected, but I thought that was the process we had to follow. Is that not how we need to do these things?
I think it is a recommended process. I did raise this with Councillor Hamill in the last meeting. I had just spoken with Luke Connery, who said, yeah, we must have it that you have to have legal product. Checked it and went, no, actually we didn't. So I asked Councillor Hamill, are you happy to take this? And it was just because we ran out of time, because it was, I suppose, pressing, because I've only found out and we only just identified we don't actually have anything in the policy. It's not urgent. I can relate it to later, but if you're willing to accept the GBI today, that would be good.
I'm sorry, I'm just getting General Counsel to answer the question. Local law. It's in the local law.
Questions about general business items? Yeah.
It's here.
Yeah, this one.
Yep.
Must be in writing.
And prior to the commencement of the meeting.
Yep. Through the Chair, in relation to general business items, the relevant provision is 18 of the subordinate local law, and notice of the general business item needs to be provided before the meeting.
In writing.
In writing to all members.
And it wasn't, sorry, Chair, it wasn't about this item in particular. I just wanted clarity for my own process. Yeah.
I just had a question, because historically it has been the decision of the chair whether or not to accept a late business item. Yes. Is there not, I mean, is that, it has changed. Well, so, sorry, where did that come from?
It is section 18 of subordinate local law.
Okay, so council local law.
Yes.
Meetings.
Meeting local law.
And so does the Act not prevail? It's not mentioned in the Act?
No, the Act requires, this is one of the local laws that is required. The Act requires the creation of the local laws. I mean, it's not, I know you're not saying this, it's not General Counsel's fault. She's been asked a question, she's answered it.
Oh, so, I get it. Yeah. I'm just thinking back over time, and there's often been a late general business item that the chair has accepted because it's something sometimes that arises as a result of the meeting process. So I just wondered how that's not indicated within the local law that if something does arise during a discussion, a general business item is permitted. Maybe
But,
it is.
So again, not seeking to pass
That's
judgment on
different,
this
right?
on this GB, but that has been the case. But I'm not sure where this specific issue has been raised in the meeting.
I think I know that has been standard practice in the past, but I do think there's also something explicit in there about if it's a matter that's raised within the meeting. Is that right? Which this wasn't.
Yeah.
So
No, so that's double test, councillor.
And
Yeah.
it's also
yeah. So I.
Then there is the ability to raise it. It doesn't have to be in writing prior if it's a matter that comes up during discussion.
I was just eager once I realised all these vaping signs in firebombed places that are in Southport. And it was interesting. Luke actually thought, no, of course we must have that, and we could enforce it if we haven't, but it's not there. So I'll do it later. Yeah.
You can do it at full if you want.
Yeah. Okay. Good-o. Which means we're closed. All good. Thank you.